We've come to the end of this discussion of black men on gender-based violence. And to end it on a positive, more hopeful note, the gentleman and I have come together and given some advice for the next generation of young black men. And this is what we had to say.
You know, there's something that I believe that each and every one of us has got inbuilt in their system. So as I told you that I'm a father of a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I've seen them grow in front of me from birth until now. And I've witnessed these different transitions, these small transitions that are happening in their lives. And for me, I mean, what I've noticed is that when they were infants, there was a certain temperament or a certain uniqueness that they had inside themselves. They might be sisters, but they definitely a huge difference between them. And in a way, if I were to be confronted with saying anything to a young person, for me, it would be to find that inner voice, to listen to that inner voice, and to encourage that inner voice, because as much as my children are different, but the essence of who they are internally, and as I said, I've witnessed it, it's a good thing. You don't need to add anything. You don't need the world to validate you. You don't need someone else to tell you that you look good or someone else to tell you that they love you. That's just a bonus that's happening. So problem with children, and probably this happened in my time and before my time as well, in a way we become slaves of validation. We want the outside world to validate us. But now if we were to go on a journey of self-validating, I mean, if you can believe inside yourself that you are worthy, you are as good as it can be, you are the best thing that ever happened, not in an arrogant way, but you are good. And then you don't go seeking for external validation in order to prove that you are good. I think it will eliminate a lot of the problems. And also that person would spend enough energy and enough effort in themselves such that the beauty that comes with their soul, it shows outside. And they are not caught up in these issues of them trying to make sure that someone realizes how important they are in their lives, because it's none of your business what other people think at the end of the day. And I suppose in a way, this is another angle at which this violence comes in, because sometimes you're angry at someone because maybe you don't feel they love you enough. Then you're angry, you want them to show you that they love you. But I mean, if you were satisfied with yourself, you wouldn't need someone else to tell you that they love you. It will just be a bonus that they love you. You know, it's a nice thing to be loved, but I mean, you can't depend on it. I mean, if the love is gone, love's gone now. So you would accept it in that way, and then there's no need to fight about it. So some people, sometimes they fight about those kind of things. And so hence my approach would be to that 16-year-old to say, just be true to who you are. Don't follow trends that are far away from the essence of who you are. Because inside you, you know the right thing. Inside you, you know what works for you. The minute you start to follow other things because you want to be admired by society, then you would miss the point, and you would get to a point where you are sweating and sweating, and then you won't even get the return that you are looking for out of this thing, because it will never give you the satisfaction that you would give yourself if you just understood yourself and focused on building that seed that's inside of you. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
I would say that because obviously most people would say that to fit in society, if you can't beat them, join them. People would say that. Most people would say that. That's how the saying goes. Most people would say that. But I would tell them that that's wrong. That's not applicable. Just because you can't beat them doesn't mean you should join them.
Okay.
Be unique. Be unique. Everyone has their own uniqueness. Be unique. Be open-minded. When someone says it's wrong, don't just blindly take it and say, okay, it's wrong. Ask yourself why it's wrong. Ask that person why it's wrong. You know, why is it wrong to abuse people? Why is it wrong to abuse females? Ask yourself those kind of questions. Would you want the same thing to happen to you? No. If not, why are you inflicting it on someone else? I would tell them, exactly. I would tell them to take a step back, think before they act. Think before they act. Just because someone has an opinion doesn't mean that you should also, you know, like kind of overpoint your opinion over them. Just because someone has an opinion and you also have an opinion doesn't make yours any wrong or any right than theirs. Everyone has the right to have their own opinion. So if someone judges you, let them be. It's their opinion. But it's your choice to change that opinion. If someone thinks you're a bad person and you know within that you're not a bad person, it's their opinion, fine, let them be. They think you're a bad person, fine, it's their problem. But ask yourself, why do they think I'm a bad person? Did I do something to them? Talk to them, ask them, did I do something to you that would make you think that I'm a bad person to you? If you did do something to them, if it's something that you should apologize to, don't be prideful. Don't be prideful. There's no shame in apologizing. There's no shame in being wrong. There's no shame in admitting defeat. In fact, the strongest people are the ones that can admit defeat. The strongest people are the ones that can admit their flaws and act upon them.
Explore life. Explore life, and you will inevitably explore yourself. You are not a two-dimensional being, you know. And this is the reason it's important for you to explore life and to explore yourself is because we don't know where 16-year-olds are going to work. You know, our past understanding of the world is literally dying in front of in front of our very eyes. You know, the world that we knew is being deconstructed. And this is the same advice that I was giving to my son a couple of days ago when I was saying, I don't know where you're going to work. I don't know what sector you'll be. I can't even recommend. I can't suggest for you to go to. I don't know. But what I can say is that explore, right? Detach yourself from the desire to belong, you know, because you need to be uncomfortable. You need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable because things are changing and things are going to stay changing for a long time. So don't base your value off of what people base their value on in the past. They're not going to live in the world that you're going to live in. So you need to develop a sense of value for yourself as a human being, not as a provider, not as a man, not, you know, those things, they're things that will come naturally to you. Once, if you value yourself as a human being and your capacity to be a human being, when you become a father, there are things that will come naturally because of that decision that you made. You know what I mean? And but what my point with this is that whatever direction you will choose, there are things you will be equipped for those things. You understand? You will develop ways of being in those situations and thriving in those situations. Don't restrict yourself, you know, and you don't need approval. That's the most important thing. If know that you are immensely valuable as a human being, based outside of what you can provide for another person. And in that, understand that another human being is immensely valuable too. If you understand your own value as a human being, you will understand that the next human being has value. You know, and what you bring to the table, as they say, is your value for life. And when you value life, you will value its beauty and its exploration, and not what scares you only.
I know what I would do. I would, find myself.
I think for me, it would be try to find yourself as early as possible. You know, discover who you are and invest in yourself. Because investing in yourself means get education, nourish your body, take care of your body and your mind, you know. Because if for instance, a young boy, you know, goes into drugs, for instance, that's not taking care of yourself. That's not loving yourself. So loving yourself, taking care of your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, and knowing, and start knowing where you're going, what you call life visioning. See where you want to go, and living according to the high levels or standards of where you want to go. And if you love yourself, you basically gonna love someone else. You're gonna love your girlfriend, you're gonna love your partner, you're gonna love your colleagues, you know. But if you don't love yourself, you're gonna reflect that on others. Because basically, as human beings, that's what we do. We tend to project our weaknesses internally. If I hit somebody, it means I have a problem myself. So dealing with yourself as early as possible. You know, I always think if I had a high level of consciousness and awareness about myself early, you know, I'm worried because young people now spend much time on the social media, TV, and all those kind of things, which does not give sufficient time on developing personal space and developing a positive mindset and loving yourself. That's key before you get to other stages of life where you have to engage with others in society. So that's important.
What I can say to my boy child is that as a man or as a boy, he needs to respect women. He needs to protect women. There's a story about this young boy, the little white boy, who saw this pit bull attempting to attack a little sister. I don't know if you saw it on Instagram. And the boy, before the dog jumped to the little girl, that boy went and faced that dog. So that boy ended up with 7 stitches in his head, and on his mouth with another stitch somewhere like that. I'm not sure. So when they asked the boy, say, what were you thinking going going to the dog like that and going to the dog like that? He said it was either the dog or me, but not my sister. I had to do whatever that is necessary to protect my little sister. Whether it could have been my life, the dog could have taken my life. I didn't care, but I needed to protect my little sister. So I think that is the attitude that we need to adopt or take when it comes to such issues, that you do as a man, as a boy, you need to do whatever it takes to protect your girl child or your woman in future. I think that is what we can do as men. Just teach your child that you respect the woman, you love your woman, you nurture her, you provide for her, however difficult it might be, but you do that. You do that. I think that is the yeah, this is what I can tell my child, because in life he will meet many things. I'll teach him that. Like Adam, like your Adam in Genesis, he was presented with before Eve came to part. Adam was was given a pig for him to choose. That you want this pig. Adam could say no. I don't want this pig. Why? I don't want to wrestle with the pig. And God gave again. He presented to Adam a snake. He said, "Do you want the snake?" He said, "No, I don't want the snake. I want something better." Adam knew that there is something that is beyond a pig, a snake, because a snake, if in life you marry a snake, it will squeeze the life out of you. It will squeeze every cent of you.
Mm.
You can give them money, the next day you say, I want another man. A pig, a pig, a pig will always wrestle in the mud. So all those things until God put Adam to sleep and say sleep. Then he took apart a rib from Adam and said, I'm creating Eve for you. So when he woke up, Adam, he saw Eve. And the first thing that Adam said he said that this is bone of my bone, this is flesh of my flesh. So it is a process as a boy that you go through certain stuff. You meet your snakes, you meet your pigs, you meet women who love who love to who love it when you hit them. There are women like this. They say, what bora letabo. Letabo heke muchitela, I'm bait. There are women like that.
Mm.
But you should not strive to be like them. You should go for someone with a more high moral value, who is beautiful, who is disciplined. Avoid such people, because there are women who are like that they can they can break up with you just for you, the whole salary. So teach your boy child that if you're a man, go for this kind of woman. Teach them that you protect this woman, that you nurture that woman, that you love that woman.
And I'd probably say, and this might be surprising, I'd probably say stay away from sex until you get married. See, in keeping with what I think is the most, pressing issues in our time, is, once you are sexually active, you can make kids very easily.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
And once you have a child, you cannot divorce yourself from that responsibility.
Mm.
So it means that from that time on, from whatever, 16, 17, now you have to be taking care of this person.
Mm.
But you yourself are not ready. At 16-year-old, you are still doing matric or standard 9, or you're still in high school, right?
True.
You don't have a career. Nobody knows who you are in terms of, you don't have valuable skills that someone can say, I need you to come and help me with this. I really want you. So your ability to make a good living is not yet developed. So when you add that responsibility, then it handicaps you right from the word go, right? So it's and then even if, you are able to do work, again, as I said, you're not ready. And the one thing that maybe we're not teaching, I wish I was taught, is that again, it's very easy to make a child. And if you then happen not to take care of the child, who's going to take care of that child? It means it's going to be the mother. Now, what happens is that the mother cannot go to, in most cases, sometimes people are able to go back to school, but in most cases, the mother then drops out of school. The person that, so you have created a problem for yourself, for, your mother, your girlfriend, and then for the child. So you've handicapped 3 people, by just one act. An act that if you had just waited, it would have been, great to do with somebody you can raise children with. Because again, I am premising my answer on what I've already said about the biggest problem in our society is fatherlessness. And I'm talking to myself, I'm talking about my situation, I'm talking about, what I see, around me. Just think about it, Letabo. So you are 16, 17 years old, as you say, right? So the 17-year-old, have sex with another, a woman, she falls pregnant. As I said, it's very easy to fall pregnant. It doesn't take, a lot, right? Say you don't get married to that person because, you're not, you find out later that you're not compatible. Say you're not married, and then you marry someone else. But you have a child with this person. So you have to see her from time to time because you want to get to the child, unless you're going to take the child with. But most of the time, the child stays with the mother, right? Now, if you're married to another woman and you are saying, I am going to see this other woman because is the mother of my child, what do you think goes in the mind of your wife, mainly? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the suspicion that, hey, you're going to see this person, blah, 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 and all this. So I know that it's not a popular thing, but, and we're not going to solve the violence thing now.
True.
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to solve it in the next 5 years, 10 years. But what I think can happen is that the next generation, the youth, people of your age, right? People who are studying now, they're either at high school or varsity. If they can grow up without all these entanglements, right? So that when you start, Letabo, when you start working, or this 16-year-old, when he starts working in, let's say 6 years, he's 22, he has no, baggage. He is free to explore things. He is free to take risks because, it's only him. Okay. Right? He can take risks, but that's where I'm going. I'm saying that if that's the advice, if there's one thing I can tell this 16-year-old is that stay away from sex. And by saying stay away from sex, I'm saying stay away from girlfriends, or if it's a woman, boyfriends. Because once you have that, the natural progression is to want to go to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can just focus on getting an education, if you're in school, or whatever way you get education, get some skills, build yourself, have some solid ideas about what you can do to make an income, whether employment or entrepreneurial endeavors, doesn't matter, but get yourself solid first. And then you can expose yourself to all these things, because if you do one before the other, these things can easily entangle you. So, and I think then it builds onto people are violent because they are frustrated. They don't know how to handle anger. They have issues of finance and all those things. I don't know all these issues that contribute, but I suspect that it is the insecurity. Don't know how to handle anger. Teach yourself to manage anger, because again, this is still advice, right, to the 16-year-old. Teach yourself to manage anger, because you are going to be angry. The people around you are going to make you angry, so you need to learn how to handle the anger. Exactly. But as I said, I think the first thing I would say is around what do we do with our bodies, right? Because again, it's very easy to make a baby, very easy, but it's difficult, quite another to take care of that baby. With this the COVID situation has exposed a couple of things. As I drive around where I live, it was Saturday, man, I was shocked to see how many women are begging, carrying, their child on one hand and begging with the other hand. It's a woman who's doing that. Where are the men? Right? So what it's telling me is that we have not educated our youth or ourselves about the responsibility of making and raising a child. And it starts with, the sex education. But yeah, I think that's my...
So I think the first thing is to tell that young men, to say that they are important. Whether being born as Africans, they are quite important in the universe. And nothing should define who they are, but they can be the master of their lives. And also to say that gender-based violence is not quite helpful. It will not help anyone, but it will destroy the African nation further. And what I would also say is it's possible for us to be better people to voice our difference without lifting an arm or any sort of violence. And they can, I think the other thing is perhaps maybe what they could also do is to shadow some of the men that have made it in life in terms of how they with the issue of gender-based violence, they've managed not to be partakers of it. But I think that would also be difficult because gender-based violence sometimes it happens within houses.
But I think if it's possible, somebody is able to get somebody who has not been part of gender-based violence, they should learn from that person on how it's done, and also to read more about it, because if you can read about it, the effects of apartheid or the effects of oppression on African Americans, one would really appreciate a lot of things, and they would be better people out of that one. I think that's what I can do.
My advice to the next generation of young Black men is to be vulnerable and to understand yourself. By vulnerable, I mean being able to feel emotions and understand emotions and not allow emotions to dictate you. Currently, throughout this whole documentary, we've discussed triggers. If you have a better understanding of yourself and your emotions, those triggers won't be as strong and won't have a strong hold on you, but rather they'll just be stepping stones, because you'd have your own tools to handle those triggers, because you'd understand how you are when you're sad, how you are when you're happy, how you are when you're angry, what makes you feel all of those emotions. And better yet, how do you overcome them so they don't affect yourself and don't affect other people outside? So understanding your emotions, you need to get to a point where you're vulnerable enough to feel them and to overcome them and to end this cycle. That is what is needed. We need to be able to, as men, feel, but not be overcome by our feelings and explode out. So my advice is to be vulnerable and to teach our kids, because the next generation will also be the potential fathers of future generations of children, and to teach our boys that it's not a bad thing to feel, but it's what you do afterwards that is important, and to hand over those tools to all the following generations, because we are the change. And to change, we need to be able to feel and to be vulnerable enough to change. So that's my advice to the next generation.
Oh, mina ngiyavuma.